Hello, welcome to Staring into the Abyss. I'm your host, Richard Gerlach, eating a nice big bowl of soup. With me, as always, is Matt Brandenburg.
Hey, you know what I've heard? I heard Hansel is really hot right now.
Oh, Han Solo's really hot right now. Do you agree with what I missed?
I think it's too sweet for me. I like a savory man.
Are you going to do the Zoolander bits the entire podcast, Matt?
No, I'll be good. But I couldn't help it. I mean, Hansel, he's so hot right now. All I gotta do is release my blue steel, and I'll be good to go. I just can't turn left.
You can't do Magnum?
I can't do Magnum.
It's the one he can't do.
It's just really hard, God. It's really, really hard to do.
I might get into a gasoline fight, freak gasoline fight, like we normally do,
and develop a bit of the black lung.
That's why we need the Bonesoup, guys.
Yeah, I need like a lung soup for the black lung pop.
That's like my favorite part is where he's like, I think I cut a bit of the black lung.
Getting the black lung pop. Sorry, everybody. You'll see what we're talking about.
Today we're going to be discussing Bonesoup by Eugenia Triantafyllou. I might have mispronounced that name, and I apologize if I did. You can listen to it or read it on Pseudopod.
Yeah, I just read it. I was like, what I was doing at the time, it just was easier to read.
Yeah. It's a quick read too. And it is very, very fall spooky fairy tale inspired.
Yes. I thought that it was a good choice for the beginning of October.
I thought so too. Before we dive into a deeper discussion of the story though, weekly roundups are always fun. I know you had your Voidcon. I like to hear a little bit about that for the show, Matt.
Yeah.
But honestly, the only movie I watched this week was the WNUF Halloween Special.
Nice. Yeah, I saw they just put that back up on Shudder.
That's why I had to watch it. I was like, oh, they put it back on Shudder. I need to watch this again. Which, if you haven't seen it, is a movie that is modeled after Ghostwatch a little bit. And it's a fake news segment about Halloween night and a man investigating a supposed haunted house live on the news while weird satanic murders are happening around town. And there's anti-Satan people that are like dumping blood on people and bizarre things happening. And it's fun. It's such a fun movie.
It is. I love the style, and I know we've talked about this before previously, especially when we talked about Late Night with the Devil. I think this and Ghost Watch are great examples of ways to do kind of not quite found footage, but news broadcast like meta TV show horror, and make you feel like you're watching something for real. So yeah, I just stuff like this just makes me happy, and it's like perfect for this time of year. So I'm like, yeah.
That's why I decided to watch it. I'm like, oh, it's back on Shudder. Shudder's getting a bunch of Halloween stuff. This is gonna be a lot of fun. I also saw Beetlejuice.
Oh yeah, how is that?
Problematic, but
problematic. Okay.
Yeah, but I think it was entertaining, but not a good movie.
Okay.
The best part of the movie is Michael Keaton.
Okay, that's what I've heard.
He still kills as Beetlejuice. But like, it's weird. Okay, like the movie. Let's put this. I'll get to the problematic part in a second. The movie has like 3 different plot lines going on at the same time.
Yeah.
And one plot line feels like it should be the main plot line. But that's not the main plot line. And so because it's not the main plot line, they have some nonsense happening to be the main plot, and this narrative that should be the plot is just kind of brushed off to the side.
Jeez.
And you're like, the fuck is this movie trying to do? And then the problematic part is Tim Burton has gone on the record saying like he doesn't cast Black people really because they don't really fit his aesthetic.
Okay.
And like there's some weird comments about that. And like, you know, like I'm not gonna get into all that. That's not my place to get into. But I can say what's very weird about this movie is before the souls move into the full afterlife, they get aboard the Soul Train.
Oh, God.
Which is modeled after the 1970s Soul Train show. And it's a bunch of dead Black people dancing as they hop on the Soul Train.
Oh, my God.
No. I mean, it's Tim Burton, though, so yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, no, it's not surprising, but I'm just like, wow, that's wow. Like I understand he's gonna go homage to Soul Train, which like also makes sense for Tim Burton in the era he grew up in.
Yeah.
With his work with Danny Elfman, like that makes sense. But I'm just like, it's really bad taste.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's just really bad taste.
Oh, that's good. See, I actually hadn't heard that. I heard the multiple plot lines, and I heard like just that it's long, but I didn't hear about the Soul Train bit.
The Soul Train bit, they repeat it a few times in the movie, honestly. But the plot that should be the C plot is like, okay, I'll do one funny thing that this movie did. Okay, and then I'll move it, and then I'll wrap my stuff up. The actor who played the father in the original movie, he was also in Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Oh, yeah, yep.
And was later arrested on child pornography charges.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, because he's the father in the first movie, they have to address the fact that he's not in this movie.
Yeah.
So they have a segment of him dying because he went on a trip to focus on photography and he got eaten by a shark.
Okay.
And when they do the scene to explain what happened to him, it's all told through like stop motion, like animation.
Nice.
Oh,
and
cool.
then he gets his whole top half eaten by a shark. So when he's in the afterlife, he's just a walking bottom half with the voice coming out his esophagus, like esophagus thing.
That's awesome.
That's their way to get around paying him for likeness.
Yeah.
Using his character.
Oh, man. So I have a Tim Burton theory. Having not seen this, but I saw the trailer with Monica Bellucci. So he has an obsession with blue women stitched up.
Yes, he does.
And like, because I went like years ago in New York at MoMA, they had when he did his Tim Burton like experiencer exhibit. It might be at Vegas now, or it was at Vegas at one point, but for like 2 weeks it was in MoMA. And it's very awesome because it was just all of his artwork, and there's props, of course. But a lot of the artwork had this woman, this blue stitched up woman, and then I started thinking about it, and I was like, almost in every single movie he's got that going. And then when I saw Monica Bellucci, I was like, okay, so this is just his thing. He likes the idea of, I guess, a corpse woman that's been all stitched up. So
no, you're a confusing idea with fetish.
I was skating
it's
that.
Really a fetish.
But,
it's a fetish.
So it's
just like with Quentin Tarantino and his toe fetish.
Yeah. So, and this one, you start thinking about it and you're like, well, this is even a weirder fetish because it's definitely a dead body. So
yeah,
there's that. But yeah. So if anyone hasn't noticed that, just watch a Tim Burton movie and you will see it. It's in almost every single movie.
And be grossed out.
And be grossed out just thinking about this is his fetish obsession.
Yep.
Honestly, this is gonna come out of left field, but you know what? Probably my favorite Tim Burton movie is
Ooh, what is it?
Mars Attacks.
That one is really good.
That's a really fun movie.
I could.
No, that thing traumatized me as a kid.
Fair.
I still can't. I appreciate the humor. Like as I've grown older, I know it's poking fun and everything. It's supposed to be a funny, wacky alien attack movie. But I saw this shit when I was little. I was, I think, 7 years old. It was right after. This was right after the aliens trauma, by the way. And I went to see it in the movies with my family. My mother and father stupidly thought that I was okay with watching this because in the trailer they made it seem like it was it's a funny movie.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're 7.
Yeah, I had nightmares for 3 days straight because of this, and it really solidified my fear of aliens.
Yeah. That's totally
so.
Fair.
Yeah, I can appreciate the humor, but I still cannot watch this movie without my inner child and my trauma just being brought up and be like, no, you know what? I'm good. I'm just gonna go under my bed, and if I have a knife, I'll have a knife, and see you. Good night.
Yeah, I get that.
They killed Michael J. Fox in it too.
They did.
They did.
I cannot forgive him for killing my hero.
Oh man, that was a fun movie.
It's a really fun movie. But Matt, how about give us a Voidcon recap and also a recommendation?
Definitely. So Voidcon was amazing. It's like a couple day thing in West Virginia. I think it's still every year it'll be there. This was only the second one, but they're already planning for the third one, so I know that's coming. And let's see, I'm gonna take it from both sides. For writers, it's really cool because you get to hang out with a bunch of writers, and the schedule is pretty chill. I think there was maybe 3-4 panels total. There's a lot of readings, so there's usually about 2 hour, like an hour and a half, 2 hours of reading. So they got a lot of people in to do that. So that was cool. But the rest of the time, you're just hanging out. It's in a hotel conference room space or event space, and there's tables for books. People are selling books, of course, but most of the time you're just hanging out and chatting and kind of catching up with either people you met before, people you know online, and you talk writing and life and all that fun stuff. So that part was super awesome. What I'll say, and this was no fault of the Void Collective and Voidcon, but the hurricane was happening last week, and while West Virginia was not in the path, it was definitely in the edge of it, and so there was lots of rain, which then in turn affected, I'll say, walk-in traffic. So the good and the bad, people were selling books, but mostly just to other writers, and I'm sure a lot of us have opinions on cons and selling to other writers, so just take that as you will, but that was no fault of theirs. That was the rain. So I understand, but it was still very cool to sit and chat and talk to people. Reader wise, you had so many options to find whatever you were kind of looking for. It's definitely that more weird area, not quite bizarro, but weird punk is there. Tenebris is there. So you kind of have an idea of Castaigne was there. So you have an idea of if you've read any books from them, you kind of know what to expect. But it was a blast. It's definitely one of my higher tiered cons because it is so chill, and you're not doing, and we all might have opinions on StokerCon, and one of them being is you're trying to get business. VoidCon is definitely not that. VoidCon is more just hey, we're all friends and family here. Let's just hang out and have fun. So highly recommend it. It's great. It's a Friday through kind of Sunday. Sunday they cut short because of travel and everything. They just kind of ended it early. So you could get there on a Friday and be totally fine. I got there on a Thursday, and there was just like a nice little pre-party hangout, which was a blast. So yeah, it's a ton of fun. I got to become quite friends with Sam Richards from Weird Punk, so that was super cool. I got to hang out with a lot of the Void people, which was also awesome. Joe Cock was there, and he's amazing, and definitely somebody to hang out with. And I know Joe probably is like, no, Joe's definitely somebody who likes to be chill, but also I think he appreciated everyone there, so that was great. So highly recommend it. Keep an eye out on Twitter or wherever you are. I'm sure they're posting other places too for Voidcon. Recommendation wise, Rich, I'm pretty positive you watched this, and I can't remember if it came out before last week, but the first episode of Uzumaki came out.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
It's good.
Have you read the manga for Uzumaki, Matt?
Yeah, a long time ago, but
okay,
yeah.
Okay.
So like I knew what to expect, and I knew that this was very rushed.
It's a short series, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's only like 4 or 5 episodes.
It's only 4 episodes.
Yeah, okay. So they're gonna have to mash a lot of things in.
Oh yeah,
yeah. That's my biggest issue with the show is it's just everything's happening so fast.
Yeah, it's probably going to be hard for those who have not read the manga, or they're going to be confused as fuck.
Yeah, it definitely has. Oh, go on.
I will say it's very faithful besides it being rushed.
Yeah, I thought that too. I was like, well, they're getting everything, but they're going at like 3 times speed. So you're like
the woman that gets the eyeball sucked into her head spiral.
Yeah. That and the animation style actually is really cool what they're doing. I haven't heard that negative, so this is just me saying positive. I enjoyed that because it's pretty much just animated, but computer animated too at parts.
It looks like it's like rotoscoped a little bit.
Yes, that's a great word for it. Yeah, it looks like it's rotoscoped, which I think is a neat style, like a neat choice for this.
Which that director has done an anime before that was rotoscoped, and a lot of people didn't like it. I remember that.
Well,
you see the Flowers of Evil anime, Villame?
I have not watched it, but I know I know of it.
Yeah, it's the same guy who directed this. And I think the rotoscoping in that one is good. People were just like, the fuck is this?
Just being whiny. But no, I enjoyed it. It's definitely, I'm like excited. I was, I know they're doing it by week, but I was kind of like, maybe because it felt so fast, I was ready to watch the next episode. And I was like, dang, I gotta wait. But
yeah, it's like they're gonna have to cut like some big things or either just speed through everything.
Yeah. And like you said, Bitlame, I think for somebody who hasn't read it, they're gonna be like, wait, what's happening?
Yeah.
It's super cool. So I don't, are we doing a round table or should I just jump into my next one?
I got like one more, so let's go with Bitlame and go back around.
Okay. I watched the Platform 2 yesterday.
I don't know if I know that.
Wait, is that the one with like the platform where there's all this food on the platform and people are prisoners?
Yep.
They made a sequel?
They made a sequel.
Yep. Is it good?
Yes? Question mark?
Okay, your yes seems suspiciously not surprising.
This is a sequel. Like it doesn't. If anything, it adds way more questions than answers. And
are they trying to answer? They tell us more about that society.
No, not really. They added like a different kind of society within the prison system.
What?
Yeah. This I'm after I watched this movie, I went online and I tried to say what was the meaning of the movie? Like what am I seeing here? And I'm still trying to figure it out.
The Platform was a perfectly good metaphorical movie.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't need a sequel. Oh shit, I see here, The Platform 2.
Yep, it's on Netflix. But I mean,
this is weird.
It is really how can I describe this? The plot is all over the place. There is a cohesive plot, but it kind of spindles around like a web. And you kind of have to become a dewdrop and follow the line of the web in order to find out what the fuck is happening.
Oh, I like that description.
And it follows it doesn't follow the people who were in the first movie. It follows other people, but they do connect in the movie. Like the characters that were in the first movie, they do connect to the characters that are in the second and in the sequel. But you're basically following this woman who volunteered, in the movie, they all volunteer to go and do this prison system, but they don't say it as a prison. They kind of feel like it's an experiment, or kind of like what do you call it again? When you don't have to go to jail, you have to do something else.
Oh, like probation?
No, not probation. A community.
Like community service?
Yes, it's kind of like their twisted sense of community service. And this woman goes in there and she volunteers to take part in this experiment. And they at the beginning of the movie, they all the characters that are introduced, they are in the interview. And they're all asked these questions like, why are you here? Why do you think you have to do this? How long are you going to be here? And stuff like that. And the woman says, I need time. And they ask, time for what? And she's like, time to forgive myself, to forget what I did. And you don't really know what she did until the end. But you see kind of these hints. And so she is put into the cell with another man who is this big burly man who looks really intimidating. You just look at him, you're like, oh shit, he's just gonna fuck shit up. He has an anger issue, and they do say what kind of food they want. They always get this one food that they eat. And that was kind of the whole point with the prison system, with the platform itself. The food on the table that is displayed there, it was not for everyone to gorge themselves on. Every single cell on this platform, they, the two cellmates, they all had their specific food. And they were only allowed to eat their food. So the platform would go down and everyone would get their share,
Mm-hmm.
But it is kind of established through the others, they are more communicating with the others, both on below and above themselves, to the other cellmates, and they're like, hey, you can't eat other people's food. If you do that, you fuck shit up, and then you're gonna face the consequences. And the guy what kind of consequence is that? Well, you die. And
that's simple.
Yeah, and it just goes they follow the rules, but then the big guy, he's a prick, and he noted there were two people that died before, and they noticed that this food that wasn't eaten. They had to throw it away because they were dead. They didn't really explain that, but then again, this is a platform. What do you expect? Everything is really arbitrary. And he eats it, and then he's punished for that. Because he was only allowed to eat his food, but he ate that person's food. And so and I said that there was a society within this prison society. Yeah, they're the punishers.
Oh, nice.
So they come and descend, with the platform. They come and they punish you. And that can be either by losing an arm, by letting the platform crush it, or death, or even worse, they strip you naked, they tie you to the platform, and they let the people at the lower levels eat you alive.
Oh, that's simple. Nice and easy.
Yeah, so it's like a really fucked up way of law that they have. And the woman kind of like when she sees what is displayed, she follows the law, like the rules and the laws at the beginning. But when her cellmate, the big guy, is punished for it and killed, like she kind of like resents that and she wants to rebel. And she's like, "This is not fair. Why do I have to go keep it like that? And I'm still not able to go, even though I've served my time." And she realized that you can never really go. You're just stuck here. So she starts to rebel, and she finds more people to do that, and it just goes all out of shit. Like I'm getting a headache just trying to explain this, guys. This is like really weird, and I'm not. And usually I'm not. I can't even say usually. I'm not really good at describing shit. So
the thing is, like,
yeah.
I'm just. I don't mean to interrupt you, Vit LeMay, but like,
no. It's fine.
This sounds convoluted as fuck.
It is.
For a movie that doesn't need a sequel.
It didn't. And then
it worked as a perfect metaphor of what they were trying to do.
And then they crammed more metaphor into it. Did you like if you had watched it, then you saw like they had a scene of like children playing like in a different kind of room, like a lot of fucking children, and they were all playing like neatly and orderly, like going round and round in a circle, and then taking each their turn to the going down the slide. And they're like, okay. And then in the middle of the movie, when it all goes to shit, then they show another scene with the children, and then they're all clambering up the slide, like beating each other's up to be able to go the slide first, and they all just it's just, and I'm like, okay, so you're cramming this metaphor, or that without laws there's chaos. And then I also just thought like, but this is also kind of like a really good example of like overpopulation. So don't know if they were addressing that, but that's what came into my head. I'm like, yeah, just think of Thanos. Maybe he didn't have such a bad idea after all. He just executed it poorly. And then the end is even it's harder to explain. Like I didn't hate the movie. I feel like I should have hated the movie, but I like how the people acted. It was really good. And just the tension was really good, because this is in the platform, and it's just one setting, so you're just completely fixated on that. And I don't know, I feel like I can forgive the convoluted plot, because it's still such a intriguing concept.
Yeah.
But I feel like if you wanted to explore more, then you should have basically just put it into a miniseries.
Yeah. It seemed like it was trying to do way too much for one movie.
Yeah, I think it was. So, I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't check it out. Just prepare to be a bit more confused about it afterwards, like I am.
Understandable. I will say my last thing for this week is I watched that new movie not last night, 2 nights ago, the new Sarah Paulson horror movie that's on Hulu called like Never Hold Your Breath, or Don't Hold Your Breath.
Don't Hold Your Breath. Okay.
Don't Hold Your Breath.
That we were actually like debating whether to watch that one or the platform 2. So, well, how was it?
I think you made the better choice with the platform 2, because that one at least sounded entertaining.
Wow.
Oh no.
I spent most of this movie bored.
Oh no.
And it frustrated me because I love like a nice, good like American Dust Bowl story, and making an American Dust Bowl horror story. I'm sold. But like I tapped out before like the halfway point.
That sucks.
Oh crap.
I don't even think I saw a trailer.
I might try to finish it, because maybe it picks up in the second half. But I was not feeling that first half.
So what is it about?
This woman, played by Sarah Paulson, is living with her 2 children in this house, and one of them is mute or deaf. I think mute and deaf, and the other one's just a regular, no disability. And she reads a bedtime story to her children about the gray man, and her children begin having nightmares about the gray man until somebody.
Such great upbringing.
Yeah.
Yeah, until somebody, they believe somebody's outside of their house during the storm. And then strange things begin happening around their house. And there's like a B plot of like Sarah Paulson's character when she was younger and a tragedy that happened to her.
So I don't know if I ever talked about this on this before, but I don't have face blindness, but I have this face thing where like if I mix people's faces up, I don't know how to describe it, but like
face dyslexia.
Yeah, maybe that. And the reason I bring this up is and this won't make sense to anybody but me because it's very wacky, this face thing, but like your description up until a point, I was like, oh well, didn't she already do the others, and wasn't that exactly the same? And like I had to like really think and be like, well, Sarah Paulson and Nicole Kidman are not the same person. But like sometimes in my head, like I see people and I'm like, oh, those are like the same people. So like maybe it's, I don't know, maybe it's the hair. I can't describe it, but like I will watch a movie and be like, that person looks like this other person. And they definitely don't, but maybe it's just like a nose or hair or eyeballs, and those things get mixed in my head. But anyway, when you were describing it, I was like, didn't they already do this? This was definitely the others.
Well,
but clearly it's not.
Like Sarah Paulson's the American Horror Story person. Like that's I think that's going to be her biggest thing by the time her career is over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there was, what was it? What movie was it? There's the I don't know. It's funny, Nicole Kidman, because she's in a movie coming up, but she like in my head looked like, who did she look like? Well, of course, my face thing isn't going to help any, but there's another movie that she looks like, what's her name? Amy Adams. And it looked like they both had a similar movie coming out recently. And I was like so confused. I'm like, they're doing 2 movies that are exactly the same. Which then also gets more confusing when you think about Russell Crowe doing 2 exorcism movies in the same year. But
oh my God.
And I could get him confused with the guy from 300. So like my face blindness.
You mean Gerald Butler?
Yes. In my brain, like my vision, like something is crosswired. And I was like, oh man, those 2 are the same. And I'm like, a lot of people are like, you're crazy because Gerald Butler and Russell Crowe are not the same. But I'm like, they could be. So
they have the same stupid haircut. That's why.
Maybe it's the haircut. Maybe it's the eyeball thing. I think they have similar eyes, like eye shape or something like that. I don't even know if they have the same eye color, but like I don't know. You could put them in a similar movie. If Russell Crowe and Gerard Butler did exorcism movies, I'd be like, they're all the same person. Like you could convince me that the 2 exorcism movies that came out, one had Russell Crowe and one had Gerard Butler, and I'd be like, you're right. There. Just so anyway, not to derail, but I was just thinking that I was like, man, this movie, like Nicole Kidman already did this.
But that's my last thing for the week.
All right, I got real quick. I'm trying to decide because I have 2 good ones. I'm gonna go with the horror one. I read there were a series of anthologies that came out in the 80s, and I think it was tied to a magazine that was out at that time. But the anthology is called Whispers, and
oh hell yeah, dude! That's a great anthology.
So I read Whispers 4. And just to give you an idea of some of the people they have in this, I mean, like the second story is Carl Edward Wagner. Ramsey Campbell's in this, which we've talked about in the past. They also, Tanith Lee is in this. Charles L. Grant, Richard Christian Matheson, which is funny that they put his middle name in there. Michael Shea. So these are awesome. This is awesome. I got it used. Definitely recommend hunting these down if you can. They're just these weird, creepy stories, and I mean, like a horror anthology in the 80s, but I feel like it was even in the 80s they were doing something just a little different. There's one story in here by, and I'm gonna look. I mean, I'll just give you the titles as I'm looking. I mean, one of the titles is "Tell Us About the Rats, Grandpa," or "What Say the Frogs Now, Jenny." I mean, like those are amazing titles. Or "I Never Could Say Goodbye." That's like another good title. So it's just awesome titles in this. But there's this Gerald W. Page has this book called "The Warrior Who Did Not Know Fear," and partly bringing it up because there was a really interesting sword and sorcery discussion at Voidcon, and if you look around now, I feel like it's slowly coming back. There's a lot of, and I talked about Conan, but there's a lot of Conan stuff kind of slipping through and coming back into the somewhat mainstream.
Yeah, there's some Conan novels coming out.
Yeah, and there's like a great Conan comic. So like. Anyway, that's like the story stuck with me because it's a sword and sorcery one where two dudes are, leading the charge of their armies, and one guy has like this curse where he doesn't know fear, and just him, like all these terrible things that happen around him and to him, but because he doesn't know fear, like it never really phases him, and it ends with like, because these stories do of big muscly dudes, it's like the battle to end the world, and it's just two dudes beating on each other, and you don't really know who wins, and I think that's a great way to end it. And what's funny in these Whisper books, they at the beginning of each story, they have like a little bio, and it's fascinating to read like some of their bios because they're really funny. At parts, the editor, Stuart David Schiff, he has, because he, I guess, edited the magazine back in the day, so like he knew all these people and talked about them, but like he'll have funny little like quips like so and so was a really cool dude, and like I wanted to hang out with him, and he dropped this story in my lap, and like just wacky stuff like that. But that sword and sorcery story I was talking about, he had mentioned like a bigger book with this character, and I was very excited about it. And when I looked online, he never ended up doing it, which is very sad. But anyway, these are I loved it. I'm definitely hunting used bookstores for more, and I think if you're looking for anthology, like an 80s anthology that maybe is just a little different, and I know anthologies like have a 6-month expiration date. After 6 months, no one knows what you're talking about. But there's a ton of them. So if you can find a older anthology called Whispers, hunt them down. I think there's 7 of them.
Who was the editor of Whispers?
Stuart David Schiff.
Stuart David Schiff.
Yeah, SC.
I was thinking of someone else. So it wasn't Whispers. This is the one I was thinking of. I think maybe Shadows. Anyway, all those anthologies from back in the 70s and 80s had an interesting array of authors, and
and it's just fun to see who they can get and who you've heard about now. I mean, like Carl Edward Wagner, which we've discussed in the past, and is a great short story writer. I think Valancourt has his collection, which I don't have in front of me to talk about, but definitely worth hunting down. So I was excited because this story wasn't in that collection, so I was happy to read something new from him. For me, anyway. So
yeah, new to you, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, Whispers, check them out. Perfect. You gotta do some use bookstore hunting or online, but if you can get one, get one.
And do you have anything else, Philome?
I watched the first episode of Dun Dun Dun.
Oh, me too. I was hoping someone else did. What did you think of it?
This is batshit insane.
Have you read the manga?
I have not read the manga.
Okay.
And I just went into this blind. The only thing I knew about this anime is that it's about a girl who believes in ghosts and a boy who believes in aliens. And they, like, in their past kind of cross together when they suddenly realize that both of those shit exist. And wacky, insane shit follows. I was watching this in the middle of the night, almost like yesterday, and I had to curb my laughter because I was laughing so much of the insanity, and also especially by this line, "I'm gonna gobble your weenie."
God, what?
There's this old grandma ghost that lives in a tunnel called Turbo Granny.
That is ridiculous.
And she likes to possess young boys so she can gobble up their weenies.
That's actually like Japanese yokai. They base that off of.
Yeah, I know.
Did you catch who the voice? Did you watch the Japanese dub?
I did, yeah, of course.
Did you catch who the voice actor or voice actress was for Turbo Granny?
No.
It's the same actress who does Monkey D. Luffy.
Makes sense.
As soon as I heard the voice, I'm like, oh, that's diabolical, but really, really funny.
Yeah. It was so funny. And then also, like, with the poor girl, like, they met, like, she's been dumped by this stupid ass guy, and she's like, oh, I really want to find someone who, like, I find a guy who's like Ken Takeru. It's a type of guy, like an idol or something.
Old Japanese celebrity from the 70s.
Yeah.
Kind of the strong silent type.
Yeah, and she's like wants to date a guy who's like that, and then she stumbles upon this boy who is like has got glasses and has a bowl cut, which is hilarious because are people still cutting that? And okay, and she kind of like stands up for him when he's being bullied, and then they kind of like start talking, and then she realizes that he is like a super fanatic about aliens, and she's like, come on, man, aliens don't exist. Ghosts, however, do. And he's like, fuck that, man. No, ghosts don't exist. Aliens do, though. There's been scientific proof about that. And she's like, nah. And then they kind of like have a challenge, and like, okay, so you'll go to this abandoned building, and I'll prove it to you that there are aliens. She's like, fine, okay, if you go to this tunnel over there, and I'll prove it to you that there are ghosts over there. And so they're like, they decided on this challenge, and they are like talking to each other on the phone, and lo and behold, there are actual things there.
Oh my gosh.
The girl is unfortunately abducted by aliens. And by the most creepy ass aliens I've ever seen. I'm like, nope. Why are they showing this? This is not good.
I will say, Vitlame, when it comes to that scene, it's the worst the anime gets when it comes to that.
It gets worse?
No, it doesn't. That's the worst. That's the worst it gets.
Okay, God, thank God for that, because it was painful to watch. I was like, they actually allowed this, and it's a comedy. What the fuck? And like they basically strip her to her just being on her underwear, and like tie her to a chair, and she's like, and they're like, yeah, we abducted you because we can't procreate, so we're gonna rape you, so we can have your babies.
And they're gonna harvest her banana organs.
Yeah, her banana organs, whatever the fuck that is. And thankfully that doesn't happen, but it was dangerously close though. And then she realizes that she actually has these like spiritual powers, like that is her, like she got it from her grandmother or something like that. And so she managed to beat the fuck out of those aliens with her spiritual powers, but not without the help of her spectacle friend who's being possessed by Turbo Granny.
Oh my lord, this is just wild.
This is a wild ride, and it's just only one episode in, and I'm like, this was insane, but I definitely need more.
You know what's even more wilds? When you get to the Loch Ness arc.
Okay.
The Loch Ness monster has an arc in this manga.
Oh, of course it does. He did mention Loch Ness in this fucking paper, so it makes sense.
Yeah. No, the manga. I'm not current with the manga, but I'm pretty far into it. It is a wild ride.
I really love how it's drawn, and the animation is amazing. There's so much fluidity in this.
Yeah.
It reminds me of the first season of One Punch Man.
Yep. Oh no, the animation is fantastic in the show. Yeah. The opening songs are really, really good too.
Yeah, it's from the same guy who did the martial opening.
Oh, nice.
The Bing Bang Boom.
You know who the guy who made the manga. You know what his claim to fame in manga was before this one?
Ah, you did tell me, but I forgot.
He was Tatsuki Fujimoto's assistant for Chainsaw Man Part 1.
Oh yeah.
So you can kind of see the crossover from Chainsaw Man to Dandadan. But Dandadan's not as depressing as Chainsaw Man is. And should we hop over to the story?
Yes.
Yes.
Let's take that transition and drink a nice big bone broth.
So yeah.
That is actually littered with bones.
Yeah.
So like, I guess that's the first question. All right, listeners, this is Bonesoup.
Not bone meal, Bonesoup.
Bonesoup. So the grandma was definitely cooking kids. Is that what we're all in agreement with?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is like a Greek take on witches.
Yeah, like Hansel and Gretel. It's
so hot right now.
I like assumed that was happening, and not like I needed it explained, but I just wanted to make sure because there really wasn't any full, like, I guess she wasn't straight up eating them. It was more just kids were getting sick, right? Like she
wasn't eating them, the witch. She was feeding them to her granddaughter.
Yes.
Yeah.
But like there's no like chat, like even like Katrina, like I guess there was no like comment of like, oh, my buddy down the street is missing, or you know, people are sad that their kids are disappearing. It was more like, well, my Katrina was getting sick a lot, stuff like that. So that's where
she was kind of like longing the vitality of her granddaughter, basically.
Yeah, by taking the other kids' essences because they're not dead. Like I didn't see, like, and that's what I'm getting at is like there's no like dead kids or missing kids in this.
No.
So okay.
or if it is, it's not implied. Like it's not heavily implied, or it's like in this kind of culture, they're like meh, it's gonna be fine. They'll be found.
Yeah, they'll be fun.
The Greeks are very laid back.
And I guess like the end kind of gives you the possibility that this is a short story, listeners. It's like 2,000 words. So like
I've read it in like 10 minutes.
Yeah, there's probably gonna be spoilers in it. We're not gonna go since it's so short, we don't need to go word for word, but like there's gonna be some spoilers. I just think that like that ending of the heart for a heart, that one I was like, okay, well then clearly Katrina's probably gonna die. That was my take on it.
Yeah.
But anyway, to backtrack just a little.
No, I agree with that.
That comment actually is a good comment because throughout the story, it's like a brain for a brain, a stomach for a stomach. Was it Dina? I think our main character is Dina. This is first person, so it's just a lot of I comments, but we do get one name, Dina. Dina's grandmother like keeps feeding her, like while all the other kids in the neighborhood come over and the grandma cooks them sweets, Dina always gets like protein starches and stuff like that. No sweets. And it's always, like I said, stomach for stomach. Or there's a part where Dina's studying and she's like, oh man, I need like studying for college. So this is years later. And she's like, oh, I need to eat a brain for a brain, lamb brains. And so the grandma's like, I'm coming right over. But
I got those brains for you.
Yeah, so like what I love, because even at the beginning, and like we did make jokes about Hansel and Gretel and Zoolander and stuff like that, but this is sort of that take but different, where it's not a candy house, it's somebody who's making sweets for people. And the people in Dina's brain are, which I loved, are sort of looking like, I don't know, candy-esque.
Yeah, she describes like sugar around their lips or the size of their lips and stuff like that.
Yeah, which is like gross.
And she describes honey as well. A lot of honey.
Yeah.
It's sticky.
Yeah, which just is very gross to me. So like these descriptions. But I did like that idea, that take of like sort of switching it around, of just, instead of like, oh, well, come into my candy house and blah, blah, blah. It's just like, hey, I'm the sweet grandma that makes candy for people. And I thought that was cool. But I like, and I like just also just that like throughout we kind of are getting this concept of like the grandma making these certain foods, and she's got this book. And so it's just this kind of very fun take, and in last names, people, I'm not going to be good at last names, but Eugenia has a nice note about this being about the Great Famine in Greece, I believe.
Yes.
1941 to 44, and that idea of parents and grandparents like making sure kids eat, which we'll say even outside of Greece, that is a older thing. I would definitely say that's like I'm sure people have had grandparents that also were like, you need to eat everything.
Yeah.
So, which
never waste a thing.
Never waste a thing, and
never waste a thing.
Lots of leftovers and all that stuff. So anyway, that's more. That's just partly just that poor upraising. You're like, okay, I gotta eat everything, and eat it. So, but that fits the story. That hits us all, because we've all probably dealt with that kind of thing before, and so I think that really helps with that. And I think I'm open to other interpretations for this. I think for me, it's less it's just an interesting take on it, and it's less horror scary till you get to that last comment, because then you're like, oh, Dina's like picking up this charge. It just reads more as like a weird take on something. So I'm open to interpretation on this as well.
I mean, I kind of like the fact that, she's basically been raised by her grandmother.
Yeah.
Of anyone in her family.
Yeah.
If she, for example, when you mentioned that she had to study and she was like, oh, I need something to concentrate. And they're like, oh, maybe I'll just call my grandma and she'll maybe make me something. And it wasn't, I'll call my mom.
Yeah.
It's my grandma. So she is the matriarch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is, I think, is really important. You can correct me on this, listeners, because I'm not that well versed in Greek culture, but I think that is a culture in Greek that you have to listen to the matriarch.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Makes sense. I'm not an expert, but
yeah.
I believe it.
Yeah. And I just thought it was wickedly sweet of her to when she realized what happened to her grandmother, or what was happening. Her grandmother was getting older and older and weaker, and she wanted to do something to keep her around for a little bit longer. It's a bit selfish if you think about it, but kind of fits into the whole narrative.
It's like thanking the grandma for doing that for her when she was younger.
Yeah, exactly.
She's repaying the debt, if you will.
Yeah, and by doing that, you have to go and do the other thing.
Yeah,
that's not really acceptable in main society.
Well, and to go with that, I'm kind of flipping through, and there's the intro one, you have Dina's dad is the young, like there. I don't know if they talk about how many kids or how many siblings he had, but like he was the favorite, and he was the one that would eat meat, and all the other kids were estranged or died from sickness. So you kind of already have like this set up, but then you kind of look and there's even a comment about him drinking coffee with no sugar, which again I think is very telling. And then you have the comment about the grandma having 11 siblings and how she was kind of the strongest out of all of them, and definitely outlived them all. It says that, but like it doesn't say when. It's just this how. Like or how, just that she was like really hardworking, and she knew, like, she worked harder than all the other ones, and she was obsessed with meat and all this stuff. So it's kind of this interesting a little hint at like, okay, well, even back then she had a thing figured out. And then also you're kind of like, because my brain is weird like that, you kind of go to this famine and it's hard to find meat, and you're like, I wonder where all those siblings went.
I mean, yeah, you can definitely go that direction.
Yeah, yummy, I got Bob in my tummy.
I think it's also really interesting that the part is said about her dad like not even taking sugar into his coffee, and I interpreted it as, because she lived during the famine, and the sugar at that time was considered a luxury.
Mm-hmm.
So she kind of like felt like this is not something that hardworking people like me are supposed to eat. So if I'm gonna need my son to be hardworking as well, he can't indulge in that as well.
Yeah.
But I think it also mirrors the fact that it also mirrors the class system.
Oh, interesting.
Because if you remember in the during when sugar was introduced in the Western world, the upper classes, like the higher ups, they indulged themselves on sweets to the point that their teeth fell out, and they would seek out poor people to get teeth. Because they had healthy teeth. And so it was really common at that time that if a poor person needed money, they would sell their teeth.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Because they had much healthier ones, and they were given to the rich ones instead.
Huh. I did not know that, but that totally makes sense.
The more you know.
Yeah.
So I think it also mirrors that. So she kind of like feels that she belongs in this class system.
Yeah.
And she is giving the others who are I don't remember if they mentioned like what Katrina's like if her family was well off or not, but I kind of had a feeling that she was.
Yeah.
And she was a little bit spoiled.
Yeah.
And so she was like, yeah, you can have that because in the end, we're going to eat the rich.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think Vietnamese is the professor for this podcast. But can I say what this story is severely lacking?
What?
Sure.
Breakdance fighting.
It is missing some breakdance fighting, which is very sad. No David Bowie judging what's happening here.
I will say Zoolander is my favorite stupid movie.
It's so good.
It's so stupid, but it's so good.
I haven't watched it in a long time.
When it came out of the theaters, and I begged my dad to take me to see it, and we left the theater, and my dad's just driving home, but he's like, "That's the stupidest fucking movie I've ever seen in my life."
Oh my god, that's perfect.
And then later he was quoting it all the time and loved it, but
it just took some time.
Yeah. But anyway, I just had to get that out there. But I will say, like, with this story, it's very straightforward. So, like, a lot of what we're saying is you read the story and it's kind of just, it's easy to kind of get it on the first reading. There's a couple of things implied here and there, but it's pretty straightforward, which I think helps make it entertaining.
Yeah.
And it's also kind of a fun riff on a familiar story.
Yeah. And actually, it's funny. I'm near the end, and I sort of answered my own question from the beginning of this conversation, because they're when they're kind of like, I think, doing stuff at Grandma's house, and they're watching TV, Dina and Katrina, and Dina's kind of talking about children getting sick all the time and nobody thinks about it. And so like, she wasn't straight up killing them, but like they bad things were happening, broken arms, infected ears, and I'm guessing stomach sicknesses and stuff like that. And so that, I think that's where this power is coming from. So she's not straight up cooking them and eating them, but she's stealing just enough from them to power her kid.
Yeah, well, let's just also appreciate the way she describes making the food, because I was getting hungry.
Me too.
Like when she was describing all
detailed.
When she was describing like all the sweets, I was like, oh crap, I forgot how much Greek sweets are good.
There was a Greek food festival here when I was in Virginia.
Oh.
And I was so sad I missed it.
Oh, that sucks. I tried making
so good.
I tried making my own, like with I can't remember the name of the dish, but it was like just phyllo dough, pistachio nuts, and honey.
Isn't that
no idea what it's called.
Baklava?
Yeah.
Maybe.
I think it's that.
Maybe, yeah. I tried making that by myself, and it failed spectacularly, but it tasted good though. I mean, you can't go wrong with honey and pistachios and phyllo.
Fair.
That's true.
But yeah, this was a great story. People need to read/listen to it.
It's a good it's a good introduction into spooky season.
Yeah.
You can find it on Pseudopod. It's a fun spooky story that isn't super scary. I think anybody will enjoy the story. It doesn't have to be a horror fan or not. Yeah. Read it around a pumpkin patch. get in that fall spirit.
There you go.
But Villain, where can listeners get in touch with you?
They can get in touch with me on my website, villainmistauthor.com, and I'm also on Instagram, Fangs and Light.
Perfect. And Matt, what about you?
Yeah, Twitter at BrandenburgDM, and my website, matt-brandenburg.com.
Perfect. And you can follow me on Twitter with @IntoStaring and Instagram with @Rudy53088. And this is Richard Gerlach saying, keep staring.